The last two best management practices before I jump into my top 10 list of ways that they're successful are two of my favorites. You probably shouldn't have favorites, but these are two of my favorite best management practices, one of which is stormwater wetlands. And stormwater wetlands are excellent quality control. Unlike all the rest of the practices that I talked about, small drainage areas, stormwater wetlands work really well with larger areas. They're extremely land intensive, but they can provide immense benefits. We see up to 40% nitrogen and phosphorus removal from these practices. They're a high temperature reducer, so they're great with our Walmart parking lots that we may not have already retrofitted with fire retention areas. They can take away some of that heat island effect. As I mentioned, they work with any drainage area. These engineered systems provide excellent habitat, and that's very important in areas where we have smaller and confined spaces, all of the ecosystem to be. This bottom photo here, in addition to being the sole treatment for a parking lot, it treats a very large school in Charlotte, North Carolina, and serves as an outdoor classroom. And a little background here, this school has a walking club which participates in this loop around the wetland. They have an outdoor club that maintains and helps keep up with the wetland, and this is actually what it looks like just a couple of years ago. And it was a retrofit. This was a stormwater detention pond initially used for their during construction practices. It was later converted into something a little bit more pretty, yet treats more of those nutrients. And the last practice I want to touch on, and I encourage you to go and put these everywhere. Everywhere. They go everywhere, they work great, are bioretention practices. And they're excellent infiltration and filtration devices. The way they are designed, there's a large bowl that serves as storage for our runoff and allows it to infiltrate into the ground. But paired with this new research, internal water storage zones, we can create an anaerobic area underneath that, just meaning that we can treat more nitrogen in some of the engineered media that's below these bioretention areas. We get excellent reductions, and we're seeing up to almost 50% reduction in nitrogen and phosphorus, which means a whole lot there again for those streams and other water bodies that have issues with eutrophication. The neat thing about these practices, and one of the things I failed to mention with stormwater wetlands, is they have a really high fecal removal rate. So we can treat pathogens because we leave them high and dry in these areas. They come in with our stormwater runoff, and then as that water infiltrates, it's left on these surfaces to bake in the sunshine, which is of imminent concern in some watersheds, like the watershed that I mentioned I live in. We have a pathogen problem. Bioretention areas, depending on what you choose to plant, can be, their maintenance can vary. As you can see, this here is a grass bioretention area. Those mowers, people like to mow. This is an excellent sell. And those of us that are a little bit more interested in pretty and aesthetics, this is a retrofit for a parking lot island in the Walmart parking lot. I appreciate you getting allow me the opportunity to go through some of those best management practices, and those are some of my favorites. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight, and I really can't take complete credit for this because I've been fortunate to work with a lot of people that have been pursuing low impact development for quite some time, and I've just sort of hung on the coattails of these individuals. But I've been very fortunate and able to pick up some of the lessons that we've learned from practices put in the ground, and I hope that you can take away some of, I guess, not necessarily our failures, but our repaired mistakes. So number one, I think utmost importance, know your constraints. And sometimes this is not something that we get the opportunity to see firsthand. Of course, we know where our water lines are and usually where our power lines are, but those sneaky fiber optic cables, not always marked. Make sure before you dig your bioretention cell, like me here, that you know where those are. And it's really awesome because Alabama has this nifty one, or 811 Alabama One Call, and they'll come out and locate that stuff for you. So use your resources, know your constraints. Very important. It saves you a lot of heartache and not so angry backhoe operator. Match your supply and demand. I talked about a lot of these practices work in small drainage areas, or they have excellent nutrient removal. Well, when you revisit those goals, make sure you match your project with what you've got. This community far left here, they have lots of impervious area, they have lots of green space, and they were like, well, what can we do? Well, they also have this really awesome roundabout that happens to serve as a bioretention cell. So I encourage you to match supply and demand. But of note, oversizing these things are okay. It's actually really cool because you get more nutrient removal, you have larger capacity to hold that runoff. So you may be able to hold more runoff for longer. So we're actually expanding on our number one goal. And keep in mind, when I talk about bioretention cell later, keep in mind this photo because I forgot to copy it. Hire a listening engineer. This is really important, and I've had several people say, listening engineer, isn't that an oxymoron? And I can say that. They've actually said that to me. But it's really, really, really important. I think I touched on it earlier, the group of people that you have to have conversation with to put these practices in place. It's important that they all be a part of the team and present. And as your engineer is designing these practices and pursuing something that may be a new technique, it's really important that they listen to the goals and be a part of that planning process. Here's my one funny of the day. Some of our best laid plans are not always our best laid plan. It's really, really, really important, and you'll have opportunity to meet and talk to some of these folks living in your communities, but you have to hire a competent contractor. And I can't stress enough how important it is to continue to educate the people that are helping you put in these projects, but you can do so through the bidding process and making sure that you outline exactly what you need so that your project can be a success, and a lot of that hinges on who you have to work with.